Yo, what's good everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today is the 1 year anniversary of me landing in the Philippines. And let me just say, it's been a wild ride. Highs, lows, everything in between. So I want to go over today a couple pros, a couple cons, and just talk about my overall experience being here in the Philippines. And if you're thinking about moving here, if you're thinking about traveling here for a couple months, couple weeks, whatever it may be, I hope this video serves as a guide. And yeah, I'm just gonna talk about personal experience, certain things that I like about this country, certain things that I don't like. It all stemmed from my decision to leave my home country. So that was one of the best decisions I've ever made, was leaving the UK, leaving my hometown when I was still 19. And yeah, ever since then, life has gone up. So we're gonna go into it. Philippines, I have no words, like it's been amazing. The people are super hospitable. You know, you're way freer here compared to the West. I feel like in the West, you know, people are watching you more often. We've had this conversation, like I've had this conversation with a couple friends off camera earlier today, is that in the West, you know, things are being more constricted. You know, the government's watching you more, not to get cancelled, I don't want to get blacklisted, but let's just say it like that. let's just say it like that. You know, you're not as free in the West anymore. Inflation's going up, people are on your ass, laws are being made for everything. I feel like here, you're free to do most things. You know, you can, even if you're a law-abiding citizen, you can choose to make a few exceptions. You can bend the law a little bit here and there, just so long as you throw money, right? Because the deal about the Philippines, and again, please don't cancel me, but the deal about the Philippines is that it is still a pretty corrupted country, let's face it, but that also leads to a benefit of, if you have money, then you can throw money at the problem, and 9 times out of 10, they'll let you off. Whereas in the West, in the UK, in the US, not so much. So the first thing that I've experienced here so far is that I feel a lot more free. Now, of course, living on my own has played a massive part in this. But also, if I were to live at home back in the West, and do I see myself going back to the West? Maybe. I'm not ruling it out completely, but as of now, that's not an option. The nature of my work also allows me to be free because it's remote. So overall, the first and biggest benefit that I've experienced there is just the feeling of being a lot freer. Now, the second thing about living in the Philippines is obviously the climate. It's hot here 24/7, 365 days of the year. I say the best times is January, February, but it's still quite warm, right? So just to inform you, it's still quite warm around that year. I have a cold right now, that's why I sound like that. It's either hot or it's rainy. Now, right now, in the time that I'm filming this, we're in rainy season. So you're gonna see a lot more rainfall. It's gonna be a lot more thunderstorms, things like that. For the rest of the year, it's dry season, where it's just gonna be very hot, very humid. Now, if you're not someone who enjoys hot, humid weather, then maybe the Philippines isn't a good option for you. But if you do enjoy that sunshine, if you enjoy that hot weather, Philippines is the way to go. Whereas in the West, in the UK, it's just overcast. It's very gray, it's very depressing, and you know, we only get summer in the 3 months out of the year. So yeah, it's a stark contrast to the UK. So the second thing is the weather. It's the second biggest thing that I've noticed here is I've had to adjust my whole wardrobe. I've had to adjust a lot of things just to accommodate for the weather. Obviously, we have air conditioning here. Most households do. So yeah, the second thing is the weather. Now, the third thing that I've experienced here, the third biggest thing that I've experienced here in the Philippines, it's still quite slept on. It's still quite underrated. So let me explain here. You see everyone talk about Thailand, about Bangkok, about Vietnam, Bangkok, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, things like Bali, talking about China, Japan. But what's actually been on the come up recently, and I can attest to this because the amount of new people that I've made here, the amount of people that I've met here who've moved back from the States or who are Balikbayans, which are Filipinos but have moved back to the Philippines. I'm seeing a lot more people, especially successful people too. Entrepreneurs are also doing business in the Philippines. They're also expanding their network here. And I see it being a powerhouse, catching up to these bigger countries like Thailand, like Vietnam, like China, like Japan, in the next 5 to 10 years. I see it being that way, and I think the biggest thing as well that the Philippines has going for us is it being an English-speaking language. So other places in Southeast Asia, you may struggle conversing with them in English, but here, most people, as long as you know, even in the province, even when it's not in the city, people will still have some ability to speak English or at least understand it. So that makes business a lot easier. That makes commuting around, living here a lot easier. Okay, so that's the third thing, is I feel like the Philippines is a growing country. It's very underrated. I see a lot more people, especially entrepreneurs, people who work remotely. I feel like this is gonna grow in the next couple years. So that's the third thing, is that it's on the rise. I feel like it's still very underrated. So come here while you can. Now, the fourth thing that I've noticed about Filipinos and the Philippines itself, and this is going to be a con. Pace of life is a lot slower here. Things move a lot slower here. So people are a lot more slower with they're a bit more lackadaisy. People are a lot more laid back. The systems here are even slower. You know, we are a bit behind. We're a bit notorious for our systems, things like banking, things like transport, especially the roads here. The traffic is a nightmare. So that's a big con when it comes to Philippines. Is the traffic. Like, I've had to, you know, going, let's say 5 to 10 kilometers, if you're in peak rush hour, it's gonna take you over an hour, just to travel 5 to 10 kilometers, and that's normal. It's funny because when I go back to the West and I do that, I travel that same amount of kilometers, I travel that same distance, it's gonna feel so weird because it's gonna only be like 10, 20 minutes. Whereas here, don't be surprised if you're gonna be stuck in traffic for up to 45 minutes to an hour, especially if it's rush hour, so you have to be careful of that. Like, it's gonna feel like I'm teleporting, okay, when I go back to the West or I go to any other countries and travel that same distance. So things are a lot slow here. I'm gonna be honest, guys. The banking system is still a few years behind. You know, a lot of the systems here are still behind. Transport, infrastructure, etc. Like I said earlier, like their infrastructure is nice here, but the systems, in terms of the systems, it's a lot slower. We haven't quite caught up to the other Southeast Asian countries, but it's okay. It's a trade-off I was willing to make. In terms of the people, like, we're a lot more slower. Like, even if you walk on the street, they walk so slow. Like, I've had to I don't really like complaining, but I complain many times that I'll be walking behind someone in Philippines, in Manila, and they'll be walking so slow. Like, I'll have 2-3 people in front of me, and usually I'm a fast walker, so it doesn't help. But 2-3 people in front of me, they're walking so slow. They're taking all the time in the world as if they got no responsibilities. And I know it's good to stop and smell the roses, but guys, like, we need to move quicker. We need to move a lot quicker. We need to move with urgency. We need to walk a lot faster. So little things like that you're gonna notice when you come here is that it's a lot of a slower lifestyle. It's a lot more of a slower society. It's not like in New York where everything's very fast and people move very fast with urgency, okay? So you have to get used to that. People move a lot slower here. People like to relax. People like to chill. People like to party. You know, people are working 9 to 5. They're working very hard. And then after that, they just wanna chill. They just wanna, you know, unwind and move very slowly, okay? So I feel like here as well, I've had to kind of find the right people, the right circle, the right network who are also Filipino and we can relate to a lot of things, but they move with more urgency and they have that urgency about their life. So that's one of the few cons about Philippines, and also traffic too, which counts under that category. The fourth thing that I noticed when I came back is by far the food. And let's say you live abroad, I know how much you guys miss the food. I know I missed the food so much when I was abroad, when I was still living in the UK. So to come back and experience that again, to experience Jollibee, Mang Inasal, street food, our childhood snacks, our favorite childhood drinks growing up. You know, for me, it was Chucky, the chocolate milk, it was C2, the yellow flavor. If you guys know, you're goated. Sky Flakes is goated. Presto is goated, Piatos is goated. All these like childhood snacks, taho is goated, sinigang is goated. That's my favorite Filipino meal on earth. That's top of the list. So coming back here from the UK, for example, if you're from the US and you're coming back here, one of the things I know you're gonna do first on your bucket list is to try the Filipino food again. So that's one thing I've enjoyed when I come back, is the Filipino food. Another thing as well, coming back here, is seeing the family. So I've had family here all my life, right? But I've been abroad for a while. Mom and dad moved me when I was 7, and since 7 I was living in the UK. So until only recently I actually moved back here. And just being able to reconnect with family I hadn't seen in years. My lolos, my lolas, my titas, my titos, cousins that I didn't even know existed, you know. Just hanging out with them, partying with them, relaxing with them, catching up on stories, good memories. And also them hearing about your stories and how life is like over on in the West or wherever you were from. Okay, so that's been a big thing for me. I've really enjoyed, is seeing the family again. Another thing as well I want to say about Philippines, a lot of people associate Philippines with being a poor country. And while that is true, there's a lot of poverty here still. What people don't really talk about are the heavy hitters. The people don't really talk about like the rich side of Manila, the rich side of Philippines, you know. You'll come here and I've met a ton of cool characters. You just have to know where to hang out. I've met a ton of cool people, business people, guys who've done very well for themselves, whether they're Filipino or have done business here in the Philippines. They've done very well for themselves, and it's always very interesting hearing their stories, hearing their advice, and just having them in our network. I thought coming here would be very difficult. This is one of my struggles when I first came here, is I thought it'd be extremely hard to connect with people here, to find like-minded people here, because either I thought, you know, the Filipinos, you know, like I said, they're a bit slow, have a bit of a slower lifestyle. You know, they're not they're not exposed as much to online business as much, or they're not basically not doing the same things that I'm doing. Not to put them down, or the successful rich people that I know here in Philippines, it's generational wealth. So they don't really want to let people in. It's very private. It's kept in the family. It's kept in the generational family tree. Turns out I've met a lot of cool people here, made a lot of connections, and yeah, it's just like any other country. Come to a new country, new town, make friends, put yourself out there, be sociable, add value, and before long, you're gonna have a social circle here. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much my observation on Philippines. I don't really have much to say. It's been amazing. The people have treated me amazingly too. They didn't really treat me much differently. I know people have different stories, but people didn't really treat me much differently compared to another balikbayan or people who lived abroad. I guess because I know basic Tagalog, that gets me by, and I'm practicing too. This past year has been a blast. Time flies. It doesn't feel like a year. We're gonna keep grinding. We're gonna keep growing the business. We're gonna keep expanding our influence. Gonna keep training hard and just making more connections, making memories along the way. So, cheers to 1 year. I hope this helps. This is my experience so far at the Philippines. When another year goes by, I might make a part 2. But yeah, I want to shine more light on the Philippines and my country, because this is where I grew up. This is where I have family, and most importantly, they've taken care of not just me, but people who weren't born here. They've taken care of them with just as much love. All right, so I love you guys, my fellow kuyas, my fellow ates, titos, titas, lolos, lolas. I love you guys. Thanks for being so hospitable. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, come through. Who knows, you might even meet me. So anyways, guys, make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe if you're new to the channel. And yeah, that's my experience. 1 year here in the Philippines. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.